You want to just bring your offering, you come and put your offering in that side. And on this side, we're going to give offerings toward mission. So if you want to specifically give funding toward mission locally and internationally, then you would put it in that side. If you don't have actual physical money, you can also use SnapScan in the packs in front of you. SnapScan the code that's appropriate and either give to missions or give to offering. Is that okay? Okay, so on the count of 3, we're all going to get up out of our chair. We're going to give our money and high five someone on the way. 1, 2, 3, go. How are we? Are we? Okay, we have the children with us this morning. Is it cool to have the kids? Kids, stand up and give me a wave, wherever you are. Awesome. Would someone please control that child? The reason the children are with us is because we just love children, don't we? And because this morning the message is going to be across the board, across the generations. And so I do want to ask, though, that children, even though you're going to be having a lot of fun, stay where your parents are, okay? Is that cool? So that mom and dad can kind of keep you in check. Okay, there we go. And what we're going to do is we've got it's not notes. We're gonna go through the entire Old Testament today if you are keen on that. But we're gonna do Genesis just starting off during church. And then after Genesis, we're gonna have a break. Church is gonna finish. We're gonna end off with a Passover and have communion, which is pretty amazing. And then if you would like, you can get a buri roll. And we're going to have lunch, and then 45 minutes after we stop here, we're going to come back, and for those who can, we're going to complete the whole of the Old Testament in less than 2 hours. Okay, so here we go. We want to hand out the work maps for you. That's what it's called. Everyone say work map. Work map. That's what it is. We're going to hand them out. So children, you keep your hands up because Christine is going to give you a special one. And then adults are going to get the rest. So, ready, set, go. There we go. And while those are being handed out, you can familiarize yourself with them. But listen up, because I know you can multitask, is the reason we're doing this. Imagine if I were to give you a piece of a puzzle. Just a piece. Just a piece. And I know I struggle with puzzles. And my wife is great with puzzles. I thought I was really clever the one day. I completed an entire puzzle. It took me about 2 weeks. And she said, 2 weeks? I said, yes, well, it says on the box 5 to 6 years. I did it in 2 weeks. But if I was to give you one piece of a puzzle and say to you, what does this represent? That could be the blue piece of sky, and you could be saying, what on earth is this? Is it a picture of a waterfall? There's no ways you're going to know what the whole picture is going to be. But once you get the whole picture, you have a very good idea of where that one piece of the puzzle goes. And so what we're doing here this morning, is giving you the piece of the entire puzzle. I mean, we're giving you the picture of the puzzle, so that when you hear a sermon, which is like getting the piece, then you can put the whole thing together. Okay, so enough of my waffling. Does everyone now have a work map? Say work map. That's right. Thank you, Hannah. So every time I now say the word work map, I need the children to repeat it after me very loud. So let's practice. Work map. Thank you. Okay. So do we all have a work map? You missed your cue. There we go. Do we all have a work map? Okay. Familiarize yourself with that. We're going to go through it. We do have a couple of rules, though, before we start. First of all, I need a timer to be started for me. Okay. One of the rules is, first rule, you need to have fun. Say that after me. First rule is? Second rule is, don't try to remember. Okay, Christine is loving this because she says she already forgot the first one. That's fine. Okay, so the first, for Christine's purposes, benefits, rule number one is have fun. Rule number two is don't try to remember. It's my job to teach, not your job to try and learn. But if you go along with me, you will remember. Yeah, okay, good. Who has done the Old Testament stuff before? Okay, a handful of you. It is not the same. And the hand signs and everything are very different. Don't try to think on the old way. Muscle memory is something which is hard to forget. So just go along. It's much quicker. In fact, it's not 5 hours anymore. It'll just be 2. So we're going to go through the whole thing. It's much, much simpler. Okay, there we go. I've got my timer on. And the third thing is we're not allowed to record this. So if you are kind of sneaking like they do in the movies, you got your smartphone out and you're trying to video, please don't, because it has to be learned in a live environment by someone who has been trained, etc., etc. And I was privileged to be one of the first batch of trainers in South Africa. And then going off to England, no one's been trained in England to do this particular seminar yet. So quite excited about that. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, are we all ready? Now, you're going to need to just kind of loosen up a bit. So just to warm up, what I want you to do is just kind of stretch. Give yourself a nice big stretch. Get those shoulder blades stretched out. And then kind of just lower your hands. There we go. Stretch, arch your back. And then up you come again. Right the way out. Fantastic. You've just covered the first 11 chapters of Genesis. Easy as that, eh? First 11 chapters. Starts off with nothing. You see, in my hands, I've got nothing. Put your hands in front of you and look at them. There's nothing there. Nothing. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring our hands out to symbolize all of creation. And at the same time that we do that, we say creation. Okay, you got that? So here we go. Start off with nothing and say creation. Isn't it incredible that God created everything out of nothing? Hey, everything. You and I can't make stuff out of nothing. We want to build. You've got to have bricks. You've got to have cement. We can build, we can create, but out of something. God is that big. that He creates something out of nothing. I need to say that again. God creates something out of nothing. And there are people sitting here who sit and say, my life is, I'm a nothing. That's awesome. God can create something out of nothing. And you know, He created all the stuff. And the last thing He created on day 6. Can anyone remember? One of the children, one of the kids know. Day 6. What did God create on day 6? A human being. Not a coffee bean, a human being. No, He created a human being. There's a word there for someone. Because we think we're human doings. He created human beings. We're supposed to be before we do. What was Adam's job on the first day after he's been created, he goes to sleep. What must he do on his the first day? What must he do? I mean, it's really hard work being created, right? I mean, I'm so tired now, I've got to rest. Do we actually understand what the meaning of that word rest is? We don't know. In Johannesburg, 2017, you and I don't know what that word rest means. Because you see, we are living on a thing called adrenaline. We just like, it's this, it's next, and we're doing 5 things at once. Show me a person who's only doing one person's job in Johannesburg. Everyone in Johannesburg is doing 2, 3, sometimes 4, 5 people's jobs. If we compare with 20 years ago. And so we get to the end of our day and we think this is rest. Adam and Eve, straight after they were created, day number 1, Sabbath. I don't want you to do anything, says God. I want you to walk around this garden and just enjoy what I've created. That's rest. You see, we have to be refilled. We've got to be refueled before we can do anything. We want to work ourselves out to completion and then say, oh, just give me some more. No. Do it the other way around and you'll see a massive change in your life. Work from rest instead of rest from work is a massive difference. Your life will be changed. So, let's do it again. Start from nothing. Creation. While your hands are up here, just kind of let them drop. Because that symbolizes the next major event in Genesis, the fall. The fall. It was God created Adam and Eve, and then He gave them one thing that He wanted them to do. Be fruitful, multiply, but one thing not to do. Don't eat from that tree. And of course, we all know the story. The serpent came along, confused them, deceived them, and they did the one thing that they were told not to do. They ate from the tree and they fell. How many people know that if there's one thing that you are not supposed to do, you just want to do it? And God's so mean because He won't let us do it. No, He's not mean. He's loving. He wants to protect us. And so Adam and Eve did what they shouldn't have done. I mean, you can just imagine as they're walking out of the Garden of Eden, the kids are saying, Dad, why are we leaving? This is so nice. He says, well, your mom's eaten us out of house and home. Sorry, guys, it gets worse, as we go along. You do, of course, know why God created Adam first and then Eve, hey? Because He didn't want any advice on the rest of creation. No, that's not true. That's not true. He looked at man and He said, I can do a better job. So here we go. Adam and Eve sinned, and the sin increased and increased and increased until God realized, you know what? I've got to change this whole thing. And He sent a flood. And so to symbolize the flood, you're just going to let the waters rise. Let the waters rise. There we go. Let them rise. And say, flood. Flood. Now, what I find fascinating is that historians tell us that all the gods that were worshipped, there was this fear that they would destroy mankind. Start again. Start from scratch. But there's one God who did it differently. He chose a man and his family and said, get the animals, build an ark. See, God, our God, is the God of hope. He's not the God of destruction. If you've had an idea that the Old Testament is all about the wrath of God and the anger of God and the destruction and this and that and fire and brimstone and hailstones, and you got the wrong idea of who God is. Because those are the other gods. You know, every time there was a thunderstorm, imagine if you and I were living in the Highveld millions of years ago, it would have been, oh, the gods are angry. Christine, what did you do? The gods are angry. The gods are angry. The gods are angry. Yes, our God. His patience was pushed to its limit. But he still chose a man. And he said, Noah, get your family. Get the animals. We're going to do this right. Incredible, incredible, incredible. And so we have creation, fall, flood. Your hands are up at the top. I want you to kind of push them into the elevator doors and just slide them open as you say nations. Nations, because that's what God did. He divided humanity into the nations. So let's just do those 4 signs. Start again. And every time I say, let's go back to the beginning, from now on, I want you to all say, yay. Okay. Can we do it? But a lot louder. I'm just not shouting into the microphone. Okay. So let's go back to the beginning. Yay! Creation, fall, flood, nations. Now, this is a crucial point to understand. That God intentionally divided the people up into nations. It was meant to take thousands, maybe even millions of years. Because what happens when people move away from each other? Language changes. Customs change. I mean, in South Africa, we have plenty languages. But let's just take one. English. You can tell which part of the country a person comes from on their accent. Because that's what happens as you spread out. But God, instead of that happening over thousands of years, it happened in an instant. It happened at the Tower of Babel. Because the people disobeyed God. He said, I want you to spread out and fill the earth. And they said, no, we're not going to. We're going to stay together and we're going to make ourselves famous. They wanted to build this huge tower. And in actual fact, archaeologists have discovered that they actually had pictures on some of the stones that they've unearthed. What they were trying to do was to reach up to the gods. They wanted to fight the gods. And it says this in the book of Genesis. There is such incredible unity there that nothing is impossible for them. See, it's not only good things that grow, bad things grow as well. And so God did in an instant what should have taken thousands of years. You know what that is? He mixed up the languages. And so there's a guy standing on top and he's collecting bricks from the guy down below and he says, throw me another one. And he catches it. And the guy down the bottom, he says, are you ready for another one? He throws it up. And next minute this guy says, you said my mother's a what? And the guy down below says, Yamaha Kawasaki. And so what happened is, besides all the confusion, the guys saying Mitsubishi, Yamaha, Kawasaki went off this way. The Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz went off that way. The Volvo and the Mini Cooper went off this way. And the nations came about. Those are the 4 major events of the book of Genesis. Genesis also has 4 major people. But let's just remember the 4 major events. I want you to stand up quickly. And let's just do the signs together. I'm not going to say anything. You do the actions and say the words. I'll just do the actions. Here we go. Just by the way, that's known as the Big Bang Theory. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Now, stay standing. Your hands are up there. God chose a guy. His name's Abraham. And he said to Abraham, Abraham, I'm going to give you so many kids. They're going to be like the stars in the sky. Hey, look up at those stars. Boom, boom, boom. And so we've just done nations, Abraham. Hey, isn't that cool? Can you do that? Can you do that? Nations, Abraham. And then I want you to grab one of those stars and just bring it down and make a little baby cradle. There we go. Okay, before you take your seats, just do those 6 signs with the person standing next to you. Check that they're doing it right. Okay, a little bit of geography quickly, so you kind of know what's going on. If I put a huge map in front of me here, on the top would be direction-wise, it would be north. Okay, so if I ask you just to lift up your feet quickly, I'm going to take this map and I'm going to put it under your feet. Okay, we're putting it all the way under. So which direction am I now? South. Which is this over here? And over here? And over here? There we go. And heaven. Heaven. Okay. Yeah. Up. Up. Okay. You got it. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah. So Abraham was round about, can you see Shev? Just kind of wave at us. There we go. Can you see her? That's Okay. So that's where Abram was when God called him. And he came all the way down here. And round about over here would be the Sea of Galilee. And then the Jordan River would kind of go windy, windy, windy. And then, oh, sorry, Kev. This is kind of like the Dead Sea. It's round about here. And then over here, all you guys over here, just give me a wave. Everyone in the section, look guys, the waves of the Mediterranean. So that's the Mediterranean Sea out that way. And in over here, we have Israel. In between these 4 bodies of water, what is this over here? Sea of Galilee, the Jordan River, the Dead Sea, and in between is Israel. It's about the size of the Kruger National Park, just to kind of give you an idea. And so God called a guy by the name of Terah to leave with his children. Abraham was one of his kids. Nahor and Haran were the other kids. And they left and they came to this place here, roundabout. And Terah, listen carefully. His one son Haran died. and he couldn't get over the death of his son. And so he just stayed here. And he named this place Haran. And this is where he died. And then God says to Abraham, hey, Abraham, coming into the promised land. He says, okay. You know what? If we can't get over stuff, now I'm not saying the death of a child is an easy or a light thing. That's hectic. But we need to, at times, be willing and bold enough to say, God, help me to put the past behind because I want to go into the promise. And there's no good saying, I'll never get into the promise if we're still holding on to the past. Because then we may as well just be like Terah and say, I'm so depressed. I want to throw a pity party for the rest of my life. I'm going to die here in my wallow, and I'll never get into the promise. So God called Abraham, and I take great courage in that. I'll tell you more about that maybe after lunch. But God called Abraham, and Abraham had no patience. And so he tried to force God. And so he took his wife's servant, and he fathered a child through her. Her name's Hagar. And there's a whole story. You can read about it in Genesis. It's phenomenal. We tend to, think badly of Hagar. But let me just, at this stage, just say, you know what? Hagar is the only woman we have in recorded scripture who gave a name to God. The God who hears. The God who hears. Isn't that beautiful? So we have Isaac. And then Isaac had a son. And the hand sign, I was kind of going to and fro. What hand sign should we use for Isaac? Or his son? He wrestled. Like an arm wrestle? He wrestled. He wrestled with his brother. He wrestled with his father. He wrestled with his uncle Laban. And he tried wrestling with God. And he lost. Okay? Some of us are kind of like Jacob, hey? So here we go. What's Abraham? Abraham, Isaac, and then Jacob. And Jacob had 12 sons. There was Reuben, and then there was Naphtali. No. Just the most important of his sons was Joseph. And Joseph had this amazing coat. So just kind of take the lapels of your shirt or jacket or dress. Joseph. And Joseph had this incredible story in Egypt, and you can read about that. Phenomenal stuff. The lesson we need to learn from Joseph, though, is that your gifting cannot be greater than your character. He was called as a young, you're going to be like the stars, and the sun and the moon are going to come and bow down to you and everything, but he had no character. And so God said, a little bit of time as a slave in Potiphar's household, a little bit of time in jail, just, talk a couple of decades here or there. And then when your character has grown, now I can use you. Don't move ahead in your gifting and leave your character behind. Joseph. And then he ends up as Prime Minister of Egypt, and a Pharaoh comes into power who doesn't know Joseph. And so he's threatened by all these Jews, because now they'd all come, you can read the story for yourself, they're all in Egypt, and he makes them slaves. And so God says to Moses, this whole huge burning bush, and he says to Moses, I can hear, the God who hears, I can hear my people. I've seen that. Man, don't think that your prayers are just bouncing off the ceiling. I hear the cries of my people. And so Moses, I want you to go back. And so Moses goes back to Pharaoh and he says, let my people go. God gave Moses a sign. He said, take the staff that you have in your hand and throw it on the ground. And as he did that, it turned into a snake. And then he said, pick the snake up. And he picked it, and it turned back into his staff. And so the sign we'll use for Moses is just pick up your staff. Moses. Moses. And Moses, God used Moses to inflict a number of plagues on the nation of Egypt. And every plague was a direct attack on an Egyptian god. They worshipped, they thought life came out of the Nile River. So Moses points his staff, puts it in the river, and it turns into death, into blood. He says, you think life comes out of here? I'll show you. They worshipped a god who was half woman and half frog. I don't know which way around. Hopefully it was the legs that were frog's legs. I don't know. But this god was called Hecht. And God says, you think Hecht is a god? Watch this. I'll take control of the frogs. And there's just frogs everywhere. Frogs. I mean, imagine waking up in the morning and there's a frog on your face. I have a Yorkie licking my face in the morning. I wouldn't mind. And a frog. And you get out of bed and you stand on a frog and you say, oh my God, because it is one. And the craziest thing about the plague of the frogs is that when the Pharaoh, he's so fed up with these frogs, he calls Moses, he says, pray for us that God will take these frogs away. But he says, just do it tomorrow. You know, there's people that are sitting here right now who are saying, I'm going to give my life to God. I'm going to do this. I will do it, but tomorrow. I want one more night with the frogs. Please, God, I just want one more night with the frogs. Every single one of these plagues. And then the last one was when a firstborn was killed. I have read, I can't prove it to you, but I have read that the Egyptians had a fail-safe mechanism. That if their gods couldn't save them, they could offer up a sacrifice of a firstborn. God says, no, you're not going to do that. The firstborn's mine. But he says to Moses, tell your people to sacrifice an unblemished lamb. Then I want you to take a hyssop piece of, their version of a paintbrush, okay? Take a paintbrush, dip it in the blood, and I want you to paint the doorposts. Just do that with me. Imagine you're painting the doorpost of your house with blood. That's the Passover. And as they did that, when the angel of death came over the nation, he passed over the homes that had the blood of the lamb. Wow. Turn to your work map. What's it? Children, you're going to have to just lean over and read mom and dad's one. I want you to have a look at where it says the Passover principle. And Sean's got a nice loud voice. I'm going to give Sean this microphone. So Sean, on this Passover principle, I'm going to read the Old Testament verse, and I want you to read the New Testament verse. Okay? And you're going to see the symbolism and the parallel in this. Number one, the instruction to sacrifice. Take a lamb and kill it.
Behold, the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world.
The condition of the sacrifice. Your lamb shall be without blemish.
The precious blood of Christ as a lamb without blemish and without spot.
The reason for the sacrifice. I will execute judgment.
And it is appointed for men to die once, but after this the judgment.
The application of the sacrifice. Every man shall take for himself a lamb.
Nor is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved.
the result of the sacrifice. The angel will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses to strike you.
There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ Jesus.
And then, in a different font, 1 Corinthians 5:7, for indeed Christ, our Passover lamb, was sacrificed for us. Just think about this for a minute. Have you painted over the door of your heart the blood of the Passover lamb who died to take away the sins of the world? If you have, then as we have communion in about a minute or so's time, you can celebrate. But if you haven't, this would be the ideal opportunity to actually say, Jesus, I don't even know what this means yet, but I do feel this pull from inside. You're inviting me to something better, something bigger than what my life is right now. And however this means, I want to do in today's time the equivalent of what Moses did back then. I want to paint over the door of my heart the blood of the lamb that was sacrificed. And then you have communion with us. And so, musicians, would you guys please come up? Those that are going to serve the emblems, please would you do that?
with streams of grace flow deep and wide, where all the love I've ever found comes like a flood, comes flowing down. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in of you, I'm in of you. Where your love ran red and my sin washed white, I owe all to you, I owe all to you, Jesus. With sin and shame, my
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Isn't that a great song to sing, eh? You can take your seats quickly. Okay, let's quickly see if we can do this. I think this is helpful. Here we go. So in the beginning, start with me. Nothing, creation, nothing, and then creation, and then fall, and then flood, and then nations, and then Abraham, and then Isaac, and then Jacob, and then Moses, and then Joseph, and then Moses, and then Passover. You just learned the whole of Genesis. It's so great. It's amazing. Okay, cool. So if you don't know, this is a little pack that's going to give you all the information you need. Every week you can sign up this week to serve next week. We love to honor the people who serve in this church because it takes a church to change the world. And so this week we want to honor Karen Brooks. Can we have a picture of the lady there? Hey. So Karen and Mark, they came about a year ago to our church now. It's coming to a year, eh? And Karen has just taken hold of the kids' ministry. If you're a parent in this church, you want to be grateful for Karen. Can we just give her a round of applause again? And she's just done phenomenal things with the kids' ministry. She's raising up a generation under Christ that's going to go to the nations for the name of Jesus. We are so grateful for you. We honor you, Karen. She is a busy lady. I just want, she's been doing some stuff in Africa that if you're about change, this is going to blow your mind. So you need to go have a coffee with her and just say, tell me about the things you do, because you'll be like, really? No way. It's crazy. So we honor you in all the stuff that you're doing. You're here serving and you're serving the kids and you're working hard, and we just really appreciate you. Thank you for being part of Renown Church. Thank you so much. Yeah, we can do that again. You clap again. You got 3 claps. 3 claps. Okay, if you want, I know 3's a good number. If you want to sign up to serve, you can serve next week Sunday and get to make some good friends and become a part of the church. So fill in the sign up to serve form, and we'd love to put you in a place where you can help out. If anything has touched you, if particularly this idea of the Passover, if anything has moved in your heart and you'd like someone to follow up with you, to help you, to support you, to walk a road with you, there's a connect card there, and we'd love for you to fill in that information so that we can get hold of you and make sure that you're connected with well. Then a few things to know. If you want to learn the rest of the Old Testament, then we're going to stop now. We're going to have a 45-minute break. In that 45-minute break, you can buy a Vors roll for 10 Rand. I tell you, Alison was cooking this stuff in the house yesterday, and it smells like what happens when baby angels cook Vors. That's what it smells like. So I'm just telling you that. So if you are hungry and you want to get some lunch, 10 Rand for a Vors roll, going to be there. And then after about 45-minute break, we'll be back here for another 2 hours where we'll learn the whole of the New Testament things. Old Testament, OT Live, that's what it's about. Then also what you need to know, and please listen now, this is very, very important. On the 17th of this month, say 17th, we are having the BFW, the Barnard Farewell. We're having the Barnard Farewell. We're going to celebrate 16 years of faithfulness to this community. If you are grateful for these people and how they've impacted your lives and the lives of other people that you know, you need to be here. We want to make this a massive celebration. We want to honor them, pray them out, be with them as they do exactly what they've been teaching us to do for the past 16 years. Is that okay? So the Barnard Farewell, tell everybody to bring everybody who knows anybody to bring everybody to be here. Is that okay? 17th. Then say 20th of September. Everybody's been asking, well, what's happening now? And then what? What does that mean? On the 20th of September, we're having a meeting here. So Wednesday night, 7 for 7:30. We're going to tell you everything that the transition is involving, what leadership looks like, all the things going forward, and your next steps as a church and our next steps as a church. So 17th and 20th. Is that okay? Are we good? Then, final thing, booklets. If you did this anywhere else at another church, you would pay 35 Rand for these. All right? If you are staying for the full session after this, we would love for you to consider giving a donation toward these. We're not asking you to pay for them. We're just saying they cost 35 bucks. So think about it. If you're not staying for the full session, if you're just gonna leave after the service now, please just leave these on your seats, because that means we won't have to pay for them. Is that okay? Cool. May Jesus win. As we lose, have a great Sunday.